Liane. Hello, Sarah. Good morning.
Hello, Nina. Good morning. How are you?
Fine, yes.
Hello, Anne. Good evening to you.
Good evening. Hello, Sarah. Nina. Nice
It's
to see
actually
you.
evening here now as well.
Hello, everyone.
It's
Hello,
actually
Ellen.
closer to midnight here, but that's okay.
Oh, so late.
Late evening for
It is.
สวัสดีค่ะ
Sawadika, Ajahn.
สวัสดีครับท่านอาจารย์สวัสดีครับ
สวัสดีครับอาจารย์ครับ
there's some harm. Hello, there's some
How are you, Ajahn? Are you well?
Yes thank you
Good.
and everyone
Yes, I think
Yes.
Nina is.
Yes, thanks, Ajahn.
I think Nina is quite cold. She's well wrapped up. Is it cold there now,
It's
Nina?
always cold in Holland now. It's okay. Conditions.
For a moment and then gone.
Yeah, only one short moments, very short moments.
And when reflecting on the Dhamma, understanding, no thought about being cold or whether it's morning or evening or anything else.
You forget about that. Quite right.
Get all the problems.
Yeah.
my conditions
All by conditions.
Yes.
Do you have anything you would like to start with today, Nina?
Yes. Last time, at the end, Andy had a remark that we all have to start from zero. And Jonathan asked, what is that zero? And when I listened a bit on, Ajahn had a very good answer to that. Learning to understand directly what is there now, different from listening and beginning to know that what is there cannot be taken for anything. Otherwise, one studies the teachings by way of I know, I understand. And this is a very good reminder, I think, because we usually forget. We have discussions on Dhamma, and we consider and study, and really there is some hidden notion of a self who is doing all that. And therefore, it's very good that Ajahn reminds us all the time that there is no one and no one can do anything.
and it is always forgotten What can be known is what is there now, just right now, that can be known. Other thing which does not appear cannot be known at all. Even it is just hardness, is that should be known as no one and nothing at all. And without that which can experience, it cannot appear as it is at all. That's why there is a reality which is conditioned to arise and experience from birth to death, non-stop, all the time, even after death. Because of conditions, they cannot be taken as anything, this life, past life, next life, but it's there all the time by conditions. So what is there, even just hardness, should be known as it is, because the idea of something is in that hardness which appears as something. Even we don't talk of use any word for it. It's there as something. It cannot be just box or shoes, but it's there as even something, not just only that which is hard, just appears and then disappears by conditions. No understanding of whatever is there at moment of seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, touching. But to learn that actually, where are these objects which seems like they are there at once? Impossible. That is the not understanding of the truth of just one moment of experiencing just one object as nimitta, see. So how subtle it is, all Dhammas. No matter it arises now and experience now and then gone, and that which arises but cannot experience, but it appears and then gone. That's all. Many, many different realities in a day or in a moment. So very subtle. But as that is the understanding of the truth of it, little by little, there can be conditions from understanding to understand it when it appears directly with direct awareness of only that object at a time as nimitta again. So we live in the world of nimitta, not understanding what are there in just a moment and the sub-moment or in split-second moment. That's why just learn to hear, to consider, to understand the truth little by little. And what is there is just conditioned realities to be such reality. No matter it's like, dislike, ignorance, attachment, or whatever is there. Just now, what are there? Unknown if Buddha didn't talk about the truth of this very moment, as no one there at all. Only the succession of that which is conditioned to arise in false way from eons and eons ago and on non-stop, because of there is still conditions to condition moment of the arising of whatever is there from this moment on and on and on. So how can there be I or self or thing? And the only way to eradicate the idea of self completely, never to arise again, never left as so very subtle, is the understanding of what is said now, beginning to understand it from hearing again and again. That's the way to develop the Ariya Satya, the fourth one, the way, so very subtle too. This moment of understanding, no matter how very little it is, it can condition next moment of understand what is there, little by little, again and again, from life to life. As is so true, it can be known directly, but with understanding only.
Ajahn, yesterday I tried to explain to someone the difference between conventional ideas and absolute realities. So I asked him to touch the table, and he understood that it is hardness. But you just said, even so, one takes it for something, and that is very hard to explain, even only hardness, and we still take that for something.
That's why we better talk about it. For example, it's hard, so there can be further question. And where is the shoe, the arm, and the leg, and so forth, or even the hand? See, at moment when hardness, only hardness is there. See, to understand what is the absolute truth at that very moment. Hardness is that just hardness. No arms, no legs, no people, no thing, not anything at all. Is that not true? Just at that very moment of experiencing, just hardness itself. To consider the truth can bring about the understanding later of the truth. Actually, truthfully, only hardness appear. Nothing that as we take for arms or things or people or whatever, not at that very moment at all. But from moment to moment, the continuous, the succession of the arising and falling away, condition, shape and form, to be taken for something, different ones, from this to that, not the same. But actually, nothing is there anymore. It's only the shadow or just the shape, the form, and the clinging to that as something permanent, not experiencing the truth, the arising and falling away. Nothing's left. But what is left is only the nimitta of that which keeps on arising and falling away as one thing and one thing and one thing, different thing. But when they are together, me, my arm, my leg, my thinking, my seeing, my hearing, from life to life. But what is truth? Let that person consider himself or herself to be truthful to the truth at moment when only hardness is there. What is the truth? Is there someone, something, or just hardness? To be truthful to the truth, Satya Barami, develop to not mistake what is there as thin, because it's hard. The truth, the absolute truth, is underlined there. Covered by the shape and form and the succession of that which arises and falls away so rapidly as what appears is something with different colors and different shapes. But what is the absolute truth? What is there in truth? Only that which is experienced, and that which just experienced what is hard only. And ignorance, not understanding the truth, there is attachment to that which appears instantly after seeing, not understanding what is the truth of it, no matter what is there. When there's ignorance of the truth, there must be attachment to that which appears. For sure, it's there, no matter what. It's the object of attachment instantly. That's why there can be the different levels of all dhammas, lopa, as anusaya, as asva, as upadana, as nivarana, so on. But the absolute truth is that what is there is different realities. Chitta is chitta, chittasika, is Cetasika. Rupa is Rupa. How can there be just moment of experiencing only one subtle Rupa? Impossible. When it arises and falls away so many times, that can be known as something with shape and form. That's why what is seen now has shape and form. How can it be seen just as a dot, not a shape or form at all? When they come together, it conditions moment of having the idea of different colors, different shape, different form. What about just one color? It cannot be taken for anything at all. So we just talk about the absolute truth to understand that what is there is not the absolute truth. When there's no understanding of just one reality at a time, clear and clear. For example, citta, we use this word, that which is the chief of experiencing, only that which is experienced, that's all. No idea about what is it, thing or people. And hearing another world, not the world of sight, but the world of sound, arising so very close alternately, but it seems that they arise together. While there's hearing, there's also seeing. Impossible. That's why beginning to understand what is the absolute truth. And what is there is not there as long as one thing. So very short. But still as nimitta. So we live in the world of nimitta. Not only a moment of experiencing an object so very subtle at a time, arising and falling away, breaking world, because what arises and falls away is a world. That's why there is the understanding when we talk about impermanence. Whatever arises has to fall away instantly. And that is so true. That can be directly experienced. When time comes, no doubt about the characteristic of that which experiences, little by little, to understand that it's no one. Seeing is just seeing right now. Where's I? How come? How can be something besides the experiencing and that which experiences, and that which is experienced? That's why there have to be satya, be truthful to the truth from the very beginning in order to understand the truth of it as it is arising and falling away. Nothing is left, gone completely, never to arise again, only once in samsara. Seeing right now is not seeing yesterday and not tomorrow. Only once in samsara. So how can that should be clinging to that because it's not there anymore. Cling to sunyata, just dream about it.
Ajahn, I try to explain about former life and present life and future life. And that person had so much doubt about that. He said, as a belief, how can they know that? So I did not quite know how to explain.
There can be the understanding of this life, so that there can be the understanding of past life and future life. If there's no understanding what is there in this life, it's impossible to understand what it's meant by past life or next life, or just a moment ago. That's why what is there in this life? There is seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, touching, 6 doorways. Can there be more? See, when there is the understanding of what is there, seeing, experiencing, what is that which can be seen, only visible object, and it has to impinge on the eye base. Otherwise, no condition for seeing to arise. That is the reality which experiences, but it cannot see without condition. But it can experience an object because its nature is a reality which arises to experience, but the object changed by conditions. When it's sound, it impinges on the ear base, condition hearing to arise and hear. Just right now, nothing can condition hearing, only that which can impinge on the ear base. And when hearing arises, it's different from seeing. It hears something else, not the visible object, because the visible object cannot be heard at all. So it's just a moment of experiencing an object. There is not always hearing, there's not always seeing. That's why the truth of life is that which can experience an object. So when we talk about life, no matter this life, past life, or future life, we talk about that which experiences an object. When it's gone, it's the past. When it hasn't come yet, it has arisen, it is future. But now, that which is the future is present, and that which is now is past when it's not there anymore. And this is the truth, not just this life, at any moment of seeing. Without that which arises to experience an object, can we say that it's life? So life is there as this, no matter when. Yesterday, there was seeing, hearing, smelling, taste. Where were they now? Never to arise again, completely gone. So there are 3 kinds of death. Temporarily, each moment arises and falls away, never to return, never to arise again. That is the meaning of death, temporarily death. Is it not true? So what is birth and what is death? That which arises to experience an object performing different function. The first moment in life is conditioned just to arise only once in that life. When time comes, it ends up to be this person. It conditioned moment of just no more this life as this person. Death is there. And there are conditions all the time to condition the next moment, because the falling away of the previous moment condition the next moment instantly. No matter can stop the conditions of each citta, which as soon as it has fallen away, it conditions next life, next citta instantly, no matter we call it death or birth or seeing or hearing. Very, very short. Just arise to experience and then gone all the time by conditions, non-stop. Because that falling away of the previous one conditioned the next arising moment of another one. Instantly. So we can call it this life, next life. When this has come to end up this life, and next life is there instantly. Next being, no matter in this life or past life or future life, seeing and then next and next and next, never be the same. Is that not true? Or can there be other truths different from this?
And Nina, I think when your friend says that we cannot know for sure whether there are past life, present life, and future life, I think that's quite correct in the sense that none of us are able to verify one way or another on this point. But it's not a matter of having to believe in past, present, and future lives, but rather coming to appreciate that the idea that we were brought up with, that we grew up with, whichever society, culture that was, whether it's one that believes in multiple lifetimes or just a single existence, it's an assumption. And rather than adhere to an assumption that we are brought up with, we can point out that one can just bear in mind what the Buddha taught on this point and see if it's our experience in life is consistent with it or not. Because for most people, for example, who are brought up in a Western culture, single lifetime, they think that the idea of multiple lifetimes is quite radical, but it's just a conditioning on their part, and one can't expect to ask them to change their mind, but one can ask them to just consider the Buddha's teaching on this point, and as they go forward, and see if their experience is consistent with that or not.
Yes, and I explained that the last moment of life passes away and conditions the first moment of the next life is not different from this moment. So if they can understand a little bit more about arising and falling away now, they will better understand that there is not only this life.
Well, again, difficult to verify that. So again, it's an assumption on our part, isn't it? Even for those of us who study the Dhamma, it's not that we disagree with what we hear, but we cannot say it's been verified. So it's still an assumption on our part.
Yes, it depends on Panya.
And I think, like you discussed earlier, it always has to come back to what can be known now, what appears now. And like you said at the beginning of the discussion, this is for those who came in a bit later, carrying on from the end of last week, when there are the ideas of, I know, I understand, it misses the point of understanding what appears right now. And even when we hear that it's just hardness now, as Ajahn said, it's always forgotten. But what doesn't appear now can't be known. So if there's no understanding that it is just hardness, just touch now, not something, not someone, not an arm, then it's impossible to understand anything about the hardness that occurred yesterday or will occur tomorrow, which actually will be just like the hardness now. So if there's no understanding of what appears now as anatta, there can't be any letting go of the idea of something or someone in this life or another life. So that's why I think it always has to come back to understanding what is real now, what appears now, And by understanding what appears now, then there is more understanding that it has to have been like that yesterday. The seeing now is just like seeing yesterday, just like seeing tomorrow, just like seeing in another life, just that reality which experiences what is visible and then falls away instantly, never to return. So it's more helpful for people to hear and consider more about the light, what life is at this very moment, because otherwise it's impossible to understand anything about past lives or future lives.
Yes, that's just thinking and speculating, and that doesn't help at all.
And there will always be the idea of someone who dies or someone who is reborn, if there is no understanding of reality now as anatta, not anyone, not anything.
That person just thought it is a belief that there is a former life and a future life.
I think the Buddha didn't ask his listeners to believe one way or the other on anything. He just taught the way things are. So all we can say is that is his explanation from direct experience, and it should not be embraced nor rejected, because either is a speculation, isn't it? But just borne in mind and considered over time, just to be borne in mind and considered over time.
And you can ask him, what about the seeing now? Is it the same as the seeing a moment ago? Is the thinking now the same as the thinking a moment ago? At the moment of hearing now, is it the same or different? So actually, whatever arises falls away instantly. So there's birth and death at each moment. The Kanika Marana, as Ajahn mentioned. So I think for most people, they can begin to appreciate there is a kind of birth and death at each moment. And there has to have been a birth and death a moment ago, and there'll be birth and death the next moment too. Whatever arises falls away and doesn't stay the same. And life carries on like this endlessly while there are conditions. But it has to begin with the understanding at this moment.
And that person had real problems. His wife died about more than 10 years ago, and he still has great sorrow about this fact now and then. He misses her.
I think it's very natural, and that grief is conditioned to arise again and again because of the strong attachment and clinging to the dream of his wife, like even when alive, like now, clinging to the dream of Jonathan, clinging to the dream of Suchin and Nina and all our friends. So all life we're clinging to different dreams, different illusions, different fantasies. Yes. So no matter she's alive or has passed away, there's still the clinging to the dream, the fantasy, and we know the clinging brings grief again and again and again. Without understanding, there cannot be any letting go of the strongly accumulated attachment. It has to be like that.
I had explained something some time ago about this fact, but he said this was beyond him. He couldn't catch it.
Mm. So that's why the understanding has to begin a little, like at the moment of seeing now or hearing. Is there any thinking about his wife, or at the moment of thinking about his food? Is there any thinking about his wife? So that thinking is just for a moment and then gone. It seems that he's thinking about her and grieving all day, but actually it's just the thinking and grieving for a moment and then gone, and then another moment.
Because he can then laugh or enjoy some sweets, eating some sweets, and then there's no sorrow
Right.
And they
And then one
forget.
can say, what about now? Is there grief now?
Yeah,
While he's smiling and enjoying the sweets, is there grief at this moment? So then he can begin to appreciate the death at each moment, that what arises falls away, nothing lasts at all. But we cling to it as something, or my grief, or my wife that's passed away. We have the idea that it lasts, but actually the happiness, the grief, the seeing, the hearing, it's just for a moment and then gone. No one there, nothing there at all. And this is the only way that gradually there is a little letting go, a little more letting go of that strong clinging to oneself, to me, to something. But it's so natural, so common.
No one can stop grief. No one can stop thinking. No one can stop attachment, but it can be known as it is, as it cannot be anyone when it's not there anymore. Nothing to be taken for person thing at all. Even while it appears, the truth is still the truth. What is there can be known. Even grief can be known. No way to stop grief unless there is the understanding of reality as it is, little by little to let go, but cannot just stop not having grief anymore, impossible. But to begin to understand the truth of grief can be developed. Better than just not understanding what condition grief and how can it be stopped, impossible. But it can be understood as it is, as just the reality which cannot be attachment. It is sorrow, unpleasant feeling, understanding the truth that it is only temporarily, so very short, and other reality just arise instantly. So there are conditions for whatever arise, no matter very often or not very often, depending on conditions. Just understanding the truth, that is the only way. But not try to stop grief or anything, but there are conditions for whatever arises to be known as no one at all. It's not in anyone's control because actually it's only by conditions. To understand the grief that is not as attachment or other reality. That is the best thing, the best medicine too. And grief is not just by such situation. There are so many situations to condition grief too. That is only one condition. Be brave to understand what is there, as it is so very truthful.
and I explained that clinging to self is the problem of all problems. It's a cause of all problems. But before they understand that there is clinging to self and what is clinging, that takes a long time.
Because just talking about seeing and hearing without talking about the nature of that which experiences is different. Because the idea of self is so very deeply rooted. That's why without understanding the reality as it is, as that which just arises and experience. For example, what is seeing right now, it sees, it experiences that which is seen, only seen. And what is hearing and what is thinking, exactly the same. That's why to let go the idea of self is to understand the nature of that which is there as it is, that which is conditioned to arise to experience. to be grieved or to be sad or to be pleasant by conditions. What about if that person would have something very pleasant? Can it condition grief?
It will condition attachment.
See, that's why it's not always as one thing. And it's there all the time. When it's time to have pleasant things, no grief, depending on conditions. And would he like the person who died to come back to be the dear one again? To be truthful. All depends on thinking and akusala, the accumulation of all sorts of akusala from ignorance. That's why when there's more understanding, there's less ignorance and attachment. So very subtle. And at moment of having new dear one or dear thing, it's not time of grief. So even grief depends on conditions. Life is not permanent and life is so short, just in a moment. More and more understanding, more and more confidence of the truth. We don't know the moment when we will not be this person again. And after that, one had reached the life that one has accumulated conditions for it to be, even this life. On the journey to the end, next life. Anytime. It can be now or tomorrow. But what about the understanding? If it's not there at all, what about next life? And if there is the confidence of the truth, it's enrooted enough or not yet, but it develops on and on to understand the truth, because the truth is there right now, all the time. Not permanent, but arising and falling away so very rapidly. That can be directly experienced with panya, which has developed to that degree of letting go the other object, which follows instantly all the time. Right now. Not forget that we are talking about what is there now. To understand it closer and clearer until it appears well as it is. To panya, no doubt about it. Because it shows up instantly, just pop up when time comes only, just right now. But it's not clear until it's clear enough. So now, does visible object appear clear? Usually we think that it's clear enough, but without panya, it's not that as it is, as visible object. It's something.
It's a difficult subject, visible object, because it is usually the product of our thinking about the table or the shoes or a thing or a situation. It's not just that what appears through eye sense only.
That's why panya is so very truthful. It knows how much understanding or how less understanding about it. And to be truthful, it's not easy at all to let go something in that shape and form, no matter through what doorways. That's why what is meant by something or atta has to be completely, absolutely eradicated, not even when even the subtle moment is not there at all. That is the meaning of understanding the Ariya Satya, the absolute truth, from hearing, considering, developing until it appears little by little to be clear with understanding.
I think even we don't speak out or think in our thoughts that it is not something, it's still not understood since it takes so long.
That's why to be truthful from the very beginning at moment of hearing a word of truth, to consider it's so true, nobody can change, because actually there's no one at all. And this is the firm confidence of what is there as it's conditioned to arise and then falls away instantly. Little by little, the truth is a truth, and it is not just secretly wishing or hoping to have it show up, but to let go. That is the past. The past is letting go. What is letting go? What has letting go? Ignorance and attachment, only that. Attachment, lopa, is still there by conditions, but at that very moment, there can be the understanding of it as just a reality which experiences that object with attachment as its characteristic. It cannot change its characteristic, it cannot change its function, it's there. Whenever it arises, no matter what is the object, it's there, being attached instantly, depending on what level, strong or very subtle. But it's just a reality which is attached to that object because of ignorance. That's why when there's less ignorance, there can be the understanding. Even intellectually, it's not permanent. It's not that which appears. It's only that which can impinge on the eye base and then gone, fall away instantly, repeatedly, until shape and form appears as something because of the succession of the rapidity of that object, arising and falling away all the time as only that one, and the other one is different by conditions. And this is life. When there's the understanding of life as no one, what about this moment gone and the next moment has come? Next life and this life is the same. Because life is that which experiences an object.
The letting go, it's not a self letting go, but we may forget that. And I think maybe that is what Andy meant by starting from zero.
And that's why we must have the parami. Otherwise, it's impossible without virya, without patience, without confidence, without kusala, which at that moment, it's rare because usually there are moments of akusala. So even just a moment of kusala is so very precious because it can support the moment of no more ignorance when there is akusala citta.
So precious.
As Buddha had to develop parami so much in order to understand the truth of this moment. And he taught us how to understand the truth from hearing and considering carefully, wisely, firmer and firmer. It let go what happened in one's life, not as before, not as just clinging so much of everything, because it's not there anymore, just only when it's there, just only when it's there. And even it's there, it arises in false way more than we can expect, no one can expect at all. Beyond imagination, because this moment, there are so many things appear as soon as one opens one's eye. So many things, but a moment of just experience the object which impinge on the eye is not, and so many things instantly in a moment. That's why there are so many uncountable moments of seeing unknown. That's why the world appears as the nimitta of what is there, arising and falling away all the time, never to return. This is to understand what is meant by anatta and sunyata. So true, all dhammas are anatta, all sankhara dhamma, sunyata.
And just getting back to the subject of visible object, Nina, that you mentioned, I agree that we have a confused idea about what visible object is. Mostly, if someone were to ask us what is an unpleasant visible object, we would say something like, oh, a dead body or some scene of dirtiness or whatever. But this is, as we know, just the story of what is seen, and the visible object itself and its intrinsic pleasantness or unpleasantness as being the experience being conditioned by Kusala Dhamma, by Kusala Gamma or Akusala Gamma. That aspect is quite unknown to us, and that just illustrates, I think, the confused idea we have of visible object, which of course can only be cured by the development of awareness and understanding of that over time.
It cannot be known whether it's a pleasant visible object or unpleasant visible object, since it is, as you say, conditioned by karma.
It cannot be known, but could we even give an example of what it means to experience an unpleasant visible object, or a pleasant one for that matter?
It's always a story then, not a reality. So we have to explain all the time the difference between thinking of a story and knowing an absolute reality. But that takes a long time to explain and that people understand, or that we understand ourselves.
Well, I think just generally when explaining the Dhamma to someone who is perhaps relatively new to it, there's a limit to how far one can go. So it's probably better to find something that they can appreciate and just talk on that rather than to bring in so many other things that they have no chance of.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Because there are aspects of the Dhamma that everyone, I think, can benefit, can grasp at an intellectual level and can appreciate and can consider over time. And that is the way to get a foothold, as it were, or for them to get a foothold in the Dhamma, to see that it has something useful and relevant to say about their life at the present moment. Just a little bit to start with.
Yes, kusala and akusala is so basic, but still that subject is not easy since every reality lasts so very, very short. So kusala is followed immediately by clinging to it, and then it's already akusala.
And for some people, it's difficult for them to even accept that we can talk about some realities as being wholesome or worthy and some as being unwholesome. So
Yeah,
every little point has to be considered and discussed.
that's right. Yeah.
Or even like Jyotika brought up last week about different feelings. People can appreciate sometimes pleasant feeling, sometimes unpleasant feeling. But the pleasant feeling, like when eating some tasty food, is just for a moment, it doesn't last, and then it's gone and forgotten. So there's bound to be different kinds of feeling, and none of them last. And there's bound to be clinging to the pleasant feeling and sadness and sorrow when it's unpleasant feeling, when the pleasant feeling is gone. But it has to be like that for everyone throughout life. But they're just different kinds of feeling, different realities that arise by conditions and fall away instantly. We think it's my feeling and my grief, but they're just different moments, different feelings that are gone instantly. I think bringing it back to this moment is the only way. Otherwise, we talk theoretically about birth and death or other topics, then it doesn't help at all, but bringing it back to this moment, helping people to appreciate life is just in a moment, and what arises now is gone instantly,
But we can
not
say,
under anyone's control.
it's so short, but before people realize how unbelievable short one moment is, that is also a difficult subject. So the Dhamma is deep and subtle, no matter what subject.
And it depends on whether there is interest for the others to listen and consider or not, or whether there's more interest to just clinging on to the same ideas and to cling to the idea of my grief and my wife rather than consider about the truth at this moment. So as Jan said, it takes a lot of courage. One has to be so brave to really understand, to really consider what is true at this moment. And like you said before, to appreciate the real problem is the strong clinging to oneself. Conditions so much grief.
Like missing husband or wife or a dear person, clinging again.
When there's strong clinging to oneself, there'll be strong clinging to the others and strong clinging to my grief, the one I've lost. But it has to be like that.
Yes,
And,
please use. Oh, no.
Hi, Eve.
Someone
Carry
speaking?
on.
Oh, all right. I have a comment that I would like to share, please. Some years ago, far away from Thailand, it was a minister who brought up in a discussion about Mozart, how as a child wrote music that adults were astonished by, and many couldn't even play, his virtuosity. And he made the comment that that was because he'd done it before. And it reminded me of Anne Lee's comment last week about playing chess and accumulations. And I can appreciate, just simply wanted to express appreciation for the journey and for John's teaching here, and how early on this and this illusion of the totality of self, there's a self that experiences something, and how it all appears as a fused whole, and how someone is gone, and but it's not the person I want back, it's the cheetah, that moment in time where we had a mutual expression of loving kindness, and each moment comes and passes away, never to return again. So whether they're alive or dead, it's gone. It's arisen, it's here, and then it's gone. And other ridiculous stories on the journey to here now about, how someone must have done something drastically wrong to have this moment of suffering, or done something wonderful to have this moment of a splendid moment, or a moment of understanding. But in order to understand suffering, why not just be open or be present, in a manner of speaking, to the suffering that is here now? And then the story falls away that there's something, maybe something done, something very wonderful to appreciate this moment of suffering, to have understanding of this moment of suffering. So a little bit of humor there, I suppose. But I did want to express appreciation for today's discussion thus far. Thank you.
Yes, I think you're making the point, Eve, that we always go to the story of the present moment rather than the reality. A lot of thinking about the story of what is happening.
And always with the idea of I that must have done something good or bad to have had this result, or someone else must have, or Mozart or someone must have done this or that to have such accumulations. It's always the idea of someone or something rather than the understanding of different dharmas, like you said right now, understanding what appears now.
Yes, as if Mozart existed in a previous lifetime, and several lifetimes prior to the one where it's just ridiculous, the stories, but it's
just a long story about someone. Yes.
Yes, powerful, reflexive, right there. Just like a reflex action. Yes.
Even when we read the stories in the suttas, like about Angulimala or Visakha, or it's always the idea of someone rather than the understanding of different dhammas, like now. So just like with the person Anina was trying to help, if there's no understanding of dhamma now as conditioned, not someone, not my understanding, not my skill, not my chess playing, not what I have done, then how can there be any understanding of how it must have been before, or how it will be tomorrow or next life? So it always has to come back to understanding of dhammas as anatta right now. It's good to hear your comments, Eve. Glad you can join the discussions now. and Lee, at the beginning of the discussion, Nina brought up some of the points that came up in the discussion with you last week. And even Eve just mentioned your name and one or two examples. Was there anything further you wish to bring up or ask about?
Thank you very much. Actually, I could not follow from the beginning. So yeah, I appreciate that something I brought here. Listen. There's another point that from the last meeting, and maybe Jonathan has a memory for that. So I said something that from 0 to 1. So it's another question, but it's another point. But because we are talking about the development of understanding, but logically something must be there from the beginning for it can be developed later. So for example, it's difficult, but it underlines the fact that, for example, if there were no understanding from the beginning, so the understanding can never develop, and so that person will stay forever negligence to Dhammas. I think, I don't know. It's just one of the points that I wonder.
You're asking, when does the first bit of, or how does the first bit of understanding develop so that it can become further accumulated?
Yes, it's like
it's another.
Yes, it must become. I still think in terms of it must be from somewhere, and then it first appear, and then it develops. I think in that kind of story.
I think the Buddha answered this when he said that the beginning cannot be known by going. But anyway, it is speculative, isn't it? Because the answer is not going to help in the understanding of what is appearing at the present moment. Will it? Knowing the answer to that question is just something, some item of curiosity that we would really like to know the answer to. But it is not something that the knowledge of which is necessary in order for the understanding of the present moment reality to develop further.
Yes, I understand.
I'm not going to speculate, because if the Buddha didn't give the answer in his teaching, then why should we try to speculate about it? Not useful.
Yes, I totally understand. Thank you. In the end, it makes no difference. It's just
And the point is,
whether we know it or not, it makes no difference to our past, right? To our way of listening to Dhamma and everything.
and the point is that there can be understanding right now. And for there to be understanding now, there must be conditions. It must be accumulated. And I think that's enough. So what is precious is the understanding at this moment, and appreciating that it's not my understanding, it's just a Dhamma that has been accumulated and what can be understood right now. Otherwise, yes, we're lost in the story about what happened when, and so it's not relevant to understanding at this moment at all.
Yes.
There are plenty of questions like this that could be pursued, but they're just a distraction to the reality of the present moment.
I wonder if I might, actually, Jonathan, it was you who made some comments around Anle's questions last week, I think, and I just wonder, because Anle's questions prompted me to think about the tendency, excuse me, the tendency that appears in one lifetime, I think you commented that it's possible or likely or that it will arise again in another lifetime. And I suppose I was wondering, when we talk about a tendency, for example, I think Anne-Lee was talking about particular in intellectual skills based on knowledge. That tendency is around a certain mental processing as opposed to content. Is that
For example, Maeve?
well, for example, something that requires a high degree of analytical thinking can be applied to a variety of situations and learning disciplines, etc. And so it seems that in some ways the tendency is likely to be a manner of thinking as opposed to something that is around content. And if that were the case, I was relating it to the study of Dhamma at an intellectual level, and how that would manifest as a tendency in another lifetime under the appropriate conditions. I know this is speculative, but it does have something to do with how understanding is developed. I think it's in that territory. Can you make some comments around that, Jonathan, perhaps, or Sarah? I'm just a little bit puzzled by that.
Well, I'm not sure I fully understand the question, but I would say that what we call analytical thinking is really a kind of thinking that's determined by certain rules for the most part, but so I don't see analytical thinking, for example, as being related to one's level of developed understanding or the ability to appreciate the Dhamma when it's heard. And I think the only skill, if you like, that equips one to appreciate the Dhamma when it's heard is having heard the Dhamma previously.
Well, that in effect that goes to what I'm asking, I think, Jonathan. I'm actually not suggesting that it is the same type of analytical thinking that is in like an academic area, for example. But at the same time, when we are asked to investigate whether what the Buddha taught actually aligns with how we are understanding that application to our own lives, there has to be a certain level of analysis and making connections and inferences about the conditionality of all things, because of the multiplicity of the rising and falling away of everything that exists. So there's a kind of, it's not just I suppose listening without reflecting, considering, and there seems to be a requirement for a certain kind of analysis to be going on there.
Could we put the question another way and ask whether the person who is skilled in analytical thinking is more likely to get the Dhamma when he or she first hears it than the person who is not so skilled? And I think the answer is clearly no, because that would mean that all the great intellects would appreciate the Dhamma, and the people who are less educated and so forth would not, but it doesn't work that way.
No. So coming back to what is the nature of the tendency that when we talk about having heard the Dhamma before being the condition for us, for not us, but for understanding to develop under renewed conditions, what is the tendency that we're actually referring to?
I think things like seeing the relevance of understanding what is real at the present moment, that kind of thing.
At an intellectual level?
Well, at whatever level it may be.
Mm.
In other words, things that are the real essence of the teaching, rather than everything else that, the stories about the great disciples and the Pali language and the Buddha's time and all that sort of thing. None of that, but just the relevance of there being more to be known about the present moment, a lot more to be known about the present moment than meets the eye.
Which comes back to, the Buddha actually asking us to conduct our own investigations as far as that goes. Like, not to, when the discussion before was around belief and assumptions, to try and go beyond that.
Right, or to put that another way, that the truth has to be realized by each person for themselves.
Mm.
It cannot be taught to one.
Mm. Thank you, Jonathan. I
think one has to consider the realities that are accumulated. So if we're talking about the skills when learning to use a computer or to cook, for example, we're talking about moments of thinking mostly with attachment, mostly with ignorance. So it's that thinking, not anything to do with the keyboard that is accumulated, but the thinking of attachment, the thinking of ignorance. And if we're talking about the considering about dhammas, it's the panya that is accumulated, not the words or the terms, or as Jonathan said, the Pali or the stories, but the panya itself, which is accumulated a little bit from moment to moment, life to life, because it's not the way of integrating different ideas or anything else, but just the different realities, thinking with attachment, thinking with ignorance, thinking with understanding, thinking with kindness. The kindness is accumulated, not the person that there is kindness to. So it's just the different tendencies that are accumulated, the different realities. That's why it's helpful to understand more about the distinction between the realities and the concepts, because it's the realities themselves which are accumulated.
And that's also why it takes so long for understanding to develop, because there is so much attachment to the concepts.
That's right.
Mm.
Even when studying the Dhamma. And of
Mm.
course, when learning how to use a computer or cooking, there can be moments of understanding like any time, but it's the moments of understanding that are precious, not all the moments of attachment in between, which are being accumulated. Perhaps Ajahn has more to add to, or anyone else.
Thanks, Sarah.
Sure, we start from zero, because that can be the answer for any puzzle. Just the question about what is there now. See, without understanding, no one can answer the truth. What is that? What is there now? See, this is zero. And what is meant by zero? No understanding. And there can be a little more understanding after thinking over what the question is about. What is there now? No thinking about it. Just think about the term and the word and what has been heard. But what is there now? There must be a reality, or we can say something. Someone might not know even it's real or what is meant by reality at all, but it's there. So it has to be that which is there as it is, but no understanding what is that. But what is seen is that which can be seen. We use the word I see all the time in daily life. It seems like one understands what seeing is, but actually there is seeing, no understanding of seeing as it is. And when it experiences an object and there's no one, so that is taken for I. Even we don't speak out, I see, but the seeing there cannot be the others, because it is a moment of experiencing and no one there. So the idea of self is there instantly. So what is there is a reality, a moment of experiencing an object which is visible. That's why we use the word seeing, and everyone knows it says that which can be seen, but the idea of that which can be seen is not yet understood clearly, because it's there as something seen, no understanding of what is there as it is. That's why before enlightening the truth, it takes quite a long time, even for the Buddha or anyone who come to understand the absolute truth, realize the truth of what is there as it is. That's why we learn to understand what is there, no idea before, but there must be that which sees, and what is that which sees? It's a reality which can experience. And before seeing is there is no seeing. But after that, they can be seen by conditions. No one can make it arise. To have confidence of it's there by conditions, because even right now, there is seeing all the time while we are talking. Who can make it arise? Impossible. Everything is there by conditions. Before anyone can have the idea that I can do or I can make it up. Impossible at all. That is wrong. So zero is the not understanding the truth, the ignorance of what is there. That's why when there are words about it, to consider whether it's true or not. It's that which sees, that which sees, it's that which doesn't have color, taste, or anything at all. It is only a characteristic of a reality which has no shape, no smell, no form at all, but arises to experience an object. Only that object, and then gone, because the other moment, it's not that which sees, it is that which thinks or that which hears, different ones all the time, by condition, before anyone can think that I can do or I make it arise at all. That is after it has conditioned and it has appeared and then gone unknowingly. And that is zero, ignorance of what is there in life as it is. To be sure by these words, whether it's true or not, this is the beginning from zero to understand it. What is there is real, but they are different. That which is seen is not the seeing, because seeing doesn't have shape, form, color, anything. It just arises as an experience. That's why before it can pop up as it is to Panya, which has developed enough to let go the other, clinging to the other object which follows, because directly understanding of that from hearing again and again, conditioned moment of understanding closer to this moment when it arises by conditions. And this is true or not, depending on considering wisely or unwisely. It arises by conditions without the eye base, the Chakupasata, we use the Pali term. Seeing cannot arise at all. And what is that which is seen? Where is it? Hardness does not appear. So that which is seen, it's not hardness. And it's not smell, and it's not anything. But it's a reality, so real, because it's there. No one can make it gone or anything at all. No one can do anything, all by conditions, from moment of birth and on and on and on to moment of death. We just call it birth and death, but it's moment of arising and falling away, experiencing all the time from moment to moment by conditions. Because that which arises and experience, we use the word citta, it has its function or pattaya, condition. As soon as it has fallen away, it conditions the next moment instantly, non-stop. Is it true? From birth, it's just like that. Learn to understand what is there in this moment. To understand the other moment is the same. The moment of experiencing an object and then gone, arising and experience an object and then gone. Each moment so very rapidly. That's why it does not appear at moment when it arises and moment when it's gone. So very rapidly. And the succession of the next one instantly. So how can there be the understanding of the past one, the previous one? Because the next one is there. Object of attention, attachment, ignorance all the time. That's why learning to understand what is there in each moment, which appears, but there are many other moments taught by the Buddha that there are conditions for what is now arising. Unknown, because it does not appear. What appears is that reality which performs the function of seeing. But there must be the other moment before it and after it, which does not perform the function of seeing. So only that which sees can appear to be known, while the other reality which arises, experiences the object before and after seeing, doesn't appear at all. And this is true or not, no one knows until Buddha point out each moment from birth on and on and on, each one. And the condition for each arising of reality which experiences and that which cannot experience, to be known any time in this life, when there are words for thought or considering the truth, whether it's there as it is or not, as it now sees. So what is meant by seeing? Experiencing. Know what is seen, which is the object of seeing. And sound, when it's heard, it's there and then gone. Each moment it is just like this, but we don't study the details enough to understand the truth that actually realities are hidden because of its succession of the arising and falling away so very rapidly. That's all. That's why just learn to understand each one, to have more confidence that it cannot be taken for anything. The one which arises and experience cannot be like the one who arises as cannot experience anything at all. They are different. So many, many different realities are known. That's why that is zero. And then where is the beginning of understanding the truth of what is there? Now, what is there now can be studied at moment of hearing, at moment of seeing, at moment of thinking, to learn that actually there are more different reality which experiences but does not perform this function that can appear in daily life as seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, touching, and thinking and liking and other reality which arises at moment of experiencing an object, beginning to understand the truth at moment of what is there now. And then later we learn more why there are different thought, different idea, and different moment of experiences, object. Sometimes the object is pleasant and sometimes it's not. And even it's pleasant, someone might dislike it. See, and even it's unpleasant, someone might like it. The condition for whatever is there, just in a moment and then gone, never to arise again. This is from zero to understand what is there as it is, intellectually. But without the truth, there cannot be what is there now appearing as nimitta, shape and form. Just consider this little by little at any time when there are conditions to think about it, not forgetting the truth of it, that we have heard about it. No one. So what is the hardest? Seeing. What is seen, whisper, object, sound, and then gone. This moment is not previous moment, and next moment is not this moment. Is it not true? From zero to understand the truth of what is there in a moment in life. And as one can understand what is meant by life, the moment when there is the reality which experiences an object, it is the same at any moment when it experiences anything, because it just experiences different from that which is experienced, and that which like or dislike, which arises at moment of experiencing an object. So many truths in one's life that can be known because they are there, but no attention to it. No. So there cannot be awareness with right understanding because no, even attention to the characteristic of that which is different from moment to moment, never be the same. Even the characteristic of that which experiences is not the same one. The previous one is completely, absolutely gone and condition the next one. Even it experiences the object, but different function, different characteristic. Just consider whether it's true or not, only that. And then right understanding begins to develop and it makes its own way to understand the truth of what is there by conditions, more or less. or by conditions. So at this very moment, understanding that which experiences an object and that which is seen. So what appears does not appear as its truth. So very, very short, so very, very subtle, arising and falling away in split seconds. Breaking world. At that moment when it is absolutely experienced the truth, it can let go the idea of self stage by stage. Because the truth is that even right now, there's no self, nothing can be self. The experiences, and then gone. That which experience also is not there anymore, but the succession looks like it's there all the time. Buddha taught so much in 45 years to understand what is there in details about the question of the past, the accumulation, the tendency, and everything. But it has to be known now as it is, and then learn more about it to have more conditions for letting go ignorance, which always take it for something and someone all the time in life, until the truth is directly experienced clearly and clearer, until it appears at what we have heard about it. To prove that it's not just only the idea, but it's the truth, the absolute truth of what is there hidden. Behind the black curtain of ignorance, deep down, not just the surface, it's just only hardness, softness, or just smell. Because when it's clear, it has to be only one object of experience. Imagine the whole world is lost, only that which is no one and nothing. And right understanding, when it's developed highly enough, is so brave, so courage, not to take or not to cling to that as I, little by little, until it's completely eradicated, never arise again in samsara. It means never arise again in daily life. Comparing about at the beginning, zero, no understanding of the truth of anything at all, until the moment of that appears as it is, not as it does not appear as it is, with ignorance or true ignorance. So the answer is the moment of understanding more about what is there now.
But the truth is always laying in the experience then.
Is there now experiencing an object?
Yes.
Is there anyone
Is
at
feeling.
the moment?
Is feeling.
Feeling is a reality conditioned to be pleasant when the object is pleasant.
When the object is pleasant.
But when the object is unpleasant, can there be the pleasant feeling?
No. So.
Yes.
Can I say that the object is this, my stomach, there's feeling the stomach?
Because you see that what is feeling?
Yeah, it's pleasant or unpleasant or no?
Or different feeling. There must be a reality which arises to feel towards that object, because it also experiences the object that citta experience.
But
The
you
feeling arises with each moment of citta, each kind of citta. There must be a condition for its arising too. And feeling is one. Reality, it does not like, it does not hate, it's not effort, it's not intention, but it just arises, starts to feel. Its function is to feel the object which is experienced.
so
Each one has very, very subtle characteristic like phassa and vitakka, attachment and clinging and metta.
but you were asking what is the object? Is there an object?
Yes, because as there is a reality which experiences, there must be object that it experiences. For example, without seeing, can there be anything as door and window and so on? Shoes, curtain, bed, so thing. So whatever appears, it means that there must be a reality which experiences, which knows it, which sees or hears or smells that
Well, that,
object.
well, that's the citta, isn't it?
Citta is the chief of experiences, because when we talk about the reality which arises to experience, there are two kinds or two qualities. One is citta.
Yeah.
It doesn't like, it doesn't hate. It just arises to experience only. That's why another word for it is pandara. When we talk about just citta itself, not the reality, cetasika, the mental factor which arises with that particular citta.
Yeah.
Because whenever citta arises, there must be mental factor arising with citta. They are coordinated, arising together, all the way together, experience the same object, but different function, different characteristic. Feeling is one mental factor which arises with each citta.
Yes.
There cannot be any citta without it feeling at all. It's there. At least there are 7 kinds of cetasika arising with citta. At least, not less than that. So feeling is one. It arises, but it's not citta. It just feels towards the object which it experiences, but not as the chief of experiencing.
I know, yeah, I understand.
So citta cannot be I or anyone. It is conditioned to arise, to be seeing or hearing differently by different conditions. Just see and then gone, because there are conditions for it to arise, just to arise. As soon as it has arisen, it's gone. But when it arises, it's there, performing its function as it is. Attachment performs the function of being attached. Of attaching.
But the citta does need to have an object in order to experience.
Because it is the reality which experiences an object it knows. Now, sound is there. If nothing experience or knows it, it cannot appear as sound at all.
Yeah. So yes,
Yes.
in the moment when we started the discussion, it is like the stomach is there, that's the object, and then the feeling is coming unpleasant, and the citta is experiencing it.
Can anyone have pleasant feeling at will, or unpleasant feeling at will, or indifferent feeling at will?
No.
That's right. They are not under anyone's control because actually there's no one. All depends on its proper conditions to be only such, not the other at all. Different degrees of feeling by condition.
Oh yeah. So it's not automatically that it is unpleasant, the feeling. It is by
There
condition.
must be conditions for its arising to be only such.
John, I have another question. Is the question, I listened to the audio from Monday, and then I heard for the first time that you say that Chitta is always wholesome. Did I understand that well?
Not always wholesome.
Not always, but
You mean pure, Pandara?
I have never, pure Chitta, I don't know, because I heard this, that it was said it is Kandra, it has another name. And then I thought, but I learned that there is, I wrote it down to ask, that there is Loba Mula Chitta or Dosa Mula Chitta, and then I thought this is not Chitta without unwholesomeness. And I understood that it is, that Chitta is always wholesome, never unwholesome. But I thought maybe it is the Chitta, that Chitta is unwholesome, but that Chitta is wholesome, but there is always Chittasikas who are unwholesome can go with it, and then the Chitta is also unwholesome.
That's why we have to understand the meaning of each word, like Pandara. When we talk about the word Pandara, it means only Chitta. Why? Because Chitta itself arises just to experience. It does not arise to like or dislike, to be intention or anything at all, just to experience clearly the object.
So
That's why I know whether it is the very soft pink or red or yellow or blue, because Chitta experience is so clear, only the object, no idea about it as something at all. Just experience the object clearly as it is. This horizon, the sky, and the ocean, see, they are so very close, but Chitta knows whether it's the imitation diamond or it's the real one or what it is. Chitta experience, but no idea about that.
So it's just functional.
And that is the meaning of Pandara. Talking about just the function of Chitta, which is different from Cetasika, the mental factor.
Yeah.
Because attachment arises with Chitta, because it experiences the same object which Chitta experienced, but it cannot experience the object as clear as the chief one, the Chitta, which clearly experienced the object. But it does not like or dislike, just experience the object clearly, so that the other Cetasika, mental factor, which arise with it, share the same object with its characteristic and function.
Yeah.
And that's the meaning of Pandara, no matter it is Akusala Chitta or Kusala Chitta, but when we just talk about Chitta itself, it is Pandara because of its function and its characteristic. Just arise to experience.
So in that way, it is
the other mental factor.
So that experience from the Chitta is without Loba or without Dosa then?
Dosa is not Chitta, Loba is not Chitta, but it shares the same object which Chitta experiences because they arise with Chitta, but they perform their function as like or as dislike or as phassa or as vitaka or as other function of different Cetasikas. but they cannot experience the object as clear as citta. That's why when we talk about the nama, we can say that there are altogether 53 nama, 52 cetasika, and 1 citta, the pandara. It means the clearness of the function of citta. That's all. The meaning of pandara. No matter it is bhavanga or what kind of citta, seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, liking, disliking. They're separate citta from cetasikas because both can experience the object.
Yeah.
So it has a different meaning from wholesome jyotika. So we cannot say that cittas are all wholesome. Like seeing is pandra, it experiences the visible object clearly, but it's not wholesome. And the same with the citta arising with lobha or the citta arising with panya, any citta. It's clear, it's the chief in experiencing the object, but it's not, it's the cetasikas that arise with it that are wholesome or unwholesome and experience the same object.
So the cetasikas make it wholesome or unwholesome?
So for example, when it's a lobha mula citta, the citta itself is pandra, but it's accompanied by lobha and the other akusala factors.
That's exactly what I wanted
Yeah.
to, because
Yes.
of the company. It is because of the accompanying cetasikas.
Cetasikas.
It becomes unwholesome or wholesome.
But even so, even when it's accompanied by lobha and so on, it is still pandra. It still is the chief in experiencing the object clearly, even at any moment.
But the name in the book is just this is a citta, lobha mula citta, dosa mula
Yes.
citta, or sobhana cittas. So it looks like the citta is beautiful or is
Right. So it
wholesome.
just refers to the citta, which is accompanied by wholesome or unwholesome roots, wholesome or unwholesome cetasikas. But even so, its task is just to experience the object. And it's up to the different cetasikas to have the functions of liking or disliking or understanding or feeling or contacting or whatever. I know it's a very subtle point. It's good you brought it up again, Jyotika.
Very beautiful to know. Because then there is also this, if there is no lobha, no dosa, there's only functional.
So even at moments of vipaka, like seeing or hearing or bhavanga citta, still the citta is performing that function of clearly experiencing the object. And that's why in the Abhidhamma, when we read many synonyms for citta, like mano is a synonym, hadya is a synonym, pandra is another one. So pandra and citta mean the same, referring to the same reality.
Thank you. I think it's a little bit further in the understanding.
Yes, and it's a matter of usage too. Sometimes the term citta is used to refer to citta and cetasikas together for convenience. But we understand that in terms of absolute realities, the citta is one reality and cetasikas are another kind of reality. The two are separate in terms of the different kinds of absolute realities.
Yes, John. But both things you cannot. It's not something to touch. It is just in the experience that you have to see the difference between lobha, dosa. There's always experience. It's nothing else than experience, is it?
Well, can we say it depends what appears?
you cannot touch it. You cannot. It is not a thing. You know. It's Ajahn is all the time saying it's not something. So what is it done? It is just experience. If it is
When there's awareness of, for example, seeing consciousness, none of the mental factors that accompany that citta are appearing, are they? There's no awareness of the concentration or the manasikara or the phassa or whatever. But when there's liking or disliking, then what appears is the mental factor concerned rather than the citta part.
yes, but also the mental factor, also the cittasika is a question of experience.
Understanding. So
Yeah.
when there is understanding, when it appears, when it is the object of experience with understanding, then the characteristic can appear. Like now, if there's no anger, the characteristic of anger cannot be understood. But if there is a moment of kindness now, then that characteristic can be understood when it appears as just a Dhamma, not my kindness or someone else's kindness. So it just depends on conditions. What is experienced, what appears, what can be known at this moment without expectation or clinging or trying or wishing.
But then the experience and the understanding is also very close. Sometimes we say, I understand. I think I said I experience.
So what is experience at this moment?
Experience is seeing, I think.
Right. So seeing, when it arises, it experiences the object. Hearing hears the object.
Yeah.
Citta with attachment experiences that object with attachment. The citta with panya experiences that object with understanding. So there's experiencing at every moment. That's why it's not enough to say it's just experiencing, because there's always experiencing with ignorance, experiencing with attachment, seeing, hearing, experiencing at every moment in life. But the realities can only be known when there is understanding with the experiencing, understanding what appears, what is experienced at this moment.
Okay, understanding what is experienced.
So if there is no attachment, it cannot be understood now. But when there is attachment, then its nature can be understood.
And with the 7 cittasikas from the beginning, from the very first 7, it's just seeing, it's just hearing.
So at the moment of seeing, the seeing as Pandrat experiences the visible object clearly. It doesn't contact it, it doesn't feel anything about it, it doesn't focus on it, it just experiences it just as it is. And each of those Chaitasikas has its own function to contact or focus or feel in a neutral way or to attend to the object.
Yeah. So that makes it different with the other 50 Chaitasikas.
And so it depends what arises now and what Chaitasikas arises, and what can be known is what appears. So at a moment of seeing, visible object is experienced. So it depends whether there's any understanding of the characteristic of visible object as visible object, just a reality, not something or not.
Thank you very much.
I always appreciate your careful considering, and it's amazing that you listen to the Monday discussions as well, Jyotika.
I know.
Appreciate it very much. I think it's almost time if Jan or anyone else would like to say anything.
I was just reading my notes from Monday, and I think, Jyotika, there are two words that may be confusing. The one is Pandara and the other is Pabasara. And I think you were referring to the second word, which Pabasara is. It also refers to chitta, but not to all chittas like Pandara. Only to all chitta, but not to the akusala chittas. So maybe some other time Ajahn can have time to explain it.
Alberto, thank you. I never had heard about the first one, Pandra, eh? Pandra?
Pabasa, yeah, it's on my notes. It's on Monday discussion, but
Yeah. What's a Pandra?
Yeah.
I never heard it for the first time.
Pandara.
Thank you very much
Every
So many-
chitta in
so many
life
words.
is
for sending it.
every chitta in life is Pandara, experiences the object clearly, referring to chitta as a chief in experiencing, but not all chittas are Pabasara, sometimes translated as luminous. Only the Vipaka chittas and the Kusala chittas, but not the Akusala chittas.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Ajahn.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you
Well,
all.
Kaptan Ajahn. Thank you very much.
Sorry, Kapazan.
And
กราบเท้าท่านอาจารย์ค่ะอนุโมทนากับคุณเซราคุณจอม
Thank you, Ajahn. Very much. Thank you.
Sawadika, metta, everyone. Yeah. Bye-bye, everyone. See you next time.